Hello Ashlings, welcome back to the Phoenix Nest. I'm your host Seek the Phoenix, and today we're going to be talking about the Summoner class in Ashes of Creation.
Hey everybody, it's your salty neighborhood giant here, and today I am on somebody else's content. I hope everybody's doing okay.
Thanks for being my guest today, BCG.
No problem, man. I appreciate it.
So BCG, I heard you're a big Summoner fan.
Yes, sir. Yes, I am. I always played some sort of class that had something to do with a pet, or was able to summon some sort of companion. For example, in World of Warcraft, I always played a warlock who, with demons right next to me, and in, let's say, Guild Wars 2, I always played a Necromancer with a heavy emphasis on minion builds.
Never been a big Summoner fan, but that's why I had you come on.
I appreciate it, and I'm thankful for being here.
So why don't we talk about each of the class combos, and then we'll go into detail on them.
Sounds good to me.
First, we've got Summoner Fighter, the Wild Blade. Next, we've got Summoner Tank, Brood Warden. Summoner Rogue, Shadowmancer. Summoner Ranger, the Beastmaster. Summoner Mage, the Spellmancer. Summoner, the Conjurer. Summoner Cleric, the Necromancer. And Summoner Bard, Enchanter. Alright BCG, how about we talk a little bit about the Summoner Fighter, the Wild Blade.
Okay, so for the Wild Blade, I think it will be pretty simple. It will pretty much just summon a companion that fights alongside you with minimal amount of possibilities to command it. It will just fight. It's like your buddy that fights right next to you. I don't think there's going to be a lot of micromanagement when it comes to the Wild Blade.
Yeah, my thoughts on that was like, I kind of think they're going to be heavily melee focused and you're going to be in the fight together kind of thing. And then maybe you'll use your summoned creature's abilities to like help you in combat. What are your thoughts on the Summoner Tank?
So yeah, the Brood Warden, I believe, will have a lot of things to do with player collision, because after all, it's the Summoner Tank. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of damage skills or whatever on that guy. I think it will be mostly maybe CC and just not letting people into a certain area. Maybe putting up an extra wall behind the tank so the people behind the tank don't get extra damage. I think that would be a good way to approach the Brood Warden.
That's really interesting. I hadn't really thought about collision in terms of summoners. What about the Summoner Rogue, the Shadowmancer?
Well, I hate rogues almost as much as I hate rangers or hunters. So I don't really know where the subclass rogue would actually play in. What I can imagine what maybe would be a thing they could do with the Shadowmancer is that the Shadowmancer could put down little shadows across a battlefield, and those are the summons, and that the summoner then can jump between the shadows, like a teleport, sort of, maybe with a cooldown. I don't think there's going to be a lot of one-hit skills within that class combo. Maybe your allies can also use those little shadow portals, and then they start having a cooldown. Maybe that would be a good way to approach the Summoner Rogue aspect, or that you maybe have an invisibility spell that you can put over a separate piece of the battlefield, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like a shadow clone jutsu kind of class, or even maybe like you could create smoke screens, kind of like the miasma bow from the battle royale.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, they could do that. That would be actually pretty cool as well.
Let's talk about the Summoner Ranger, the Beastmaster.
Okay, so Rangers or Hunters or bow classes in general are the most hated classes in my world. So I'm just gonna assume that because it's got the Beastmaster, that you will have a lot of pets that you are able to summon, and that there is going to be a lot of micromanagement when it comes to those classes. I think that would be a good way. For example, a normal ranger maybe has one pet, but a summoner ranger, the Beastmaster, is able to summon a wolf, giraffe, a bear, a freaking chihuahua, and you're able to control them all individual instead of just having one summon to control. I think that would be an interesting way to go about it, because that way, you're like the Beastmaster.
Something I was thinking about the Beastmaster was, you know how there's the polymorph chest in the Battle Royale that changes you into something that's nearby? Well, maybe
Yes.
they use a similar system to your summon for that class, where you can summon random creatures that are nearby for that area. Like,
Okay.
like a tiger in the jungle or an alligator in a swamp kind of thing.
That's an interesting approach. I would love to see something like that.
Alright, now we're going to talk about the Summoner Mage, the Spellmancer.
So for the Spellmancer, actually took me a little bit to actually come up with something. So from the Battle Royale mode and from the Alpha Zero time that we played, we know that the Mage has a lot to do with element. So what I could see the Spellmancer being a character or a class that summons different aspects of nature, for example, like fire and water, wind, whatever nature has to offer, and does a lot of area of effect things that are in combination with other players. For example, if a warrior does a whirlwind and a Spellmancer throws down a field of fire, then there's extra burning damage. I think that would be a good way to do it, because that way you can summon different aspects and maybe even creatures that have that sort of effect when it comes to nature.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking maybe it would control your flavor of your pet, where you'd have like an ice wolf or a rock tiger or something based on what you choose as your element, or what you spec into most, or what you augment onto the summon pet ability slot.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, Summoner leaves a lot of things open. There's a lot of things they can do with it.
Yeah, there's still so much we don't know. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the penultimate summoner class, the Conjurer.
Okay, so for the Summoner combination, I would like to see a heavy emphasis on like summon. Like not even just be able to summon one, but be able to summon really, really fast. For example, you charge into battle, and to get there fast, you summon a horse, you jump on the horse, you ride in the battle. As soon as you get there, you jump off the horse, or even mid-air, you can summon something different. That you do a lot of summoning spells and interact with them. A lot like, I don't know, let's go for something that a lot of anime fans may be able to recognize. You know how the fights go in, what was it? What was the name of the anime? The one with the brothers. And the Alchemist.
Oh, Full Metal Alchemist?
Full Metal Alchemist, exactly. You know how those fights go and they summon stuff left and right? They just clap their hands and boom. That's what I would like to see for the Summoner. Just like, hey, I need a shield, boom, there's a shield. Boom, hey, I need a horse, boom, there's a horse. Make it really fast. Make it fast-paced.
Yeah, maybe they're the masters of summoning, so at this point they can do things faster and more powerful than, someone who goes Summoner Bard or Summoner Cleric or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of Summoner Cleric, we're going to talk about the Necromancer next.
Okay, so the Necromancer, the class that I thought I would be maining, but sadly it had to move to second place because Warlocks for life. But when it comes to Necromancer, I hope the way they go is towards debuffs, a lot of debuffs, because Necromancer is the opposite of the Cleric, or the High Priest, or the Cleric class in general, and you raise things from the dead. So you bring stuff back to life, but that stuff is meant to be in the living world, and it has to go back. So when it goes back to the undead world, or the dead, the underground, or the underworld, it takes it with you. So what I can see in that regard is, summons that have a lot of debuffs. For example, a horde of skeletons, it slows down the opponent. Maybe a gargoyle that does some low effects or something. So with the Necromancer, Summoner Cleric, Necromancer combination, I see a lot of debuffs. That would make sense for me. Like a lot of AoE debuffs, a lot of things that can really slow the pace of a battle.
Yeah, additionally to that, I was thinking maybe they could make their pets undead versions of themselves, or have flies coming off of them, stuff like that. Just make them look zombie versions of them. So that might introduce kind of a really cool concept of any pet you catch or summon or whatever out in the wild can then become different versions of itself, depending on what flavor of summoner you pick. I think that would be a really cool way to deal with that.
I would like to see that.
Alright, and then for the last summoner combo, we've got the Summoner Bard, the Enchanter.
Okay, so for the Enchanter, I'm thinking more towards support, like real hardcore support. And not in the sense of, CC, player collision, or healing, more like buffs. What I mean by that is, for example, that the Summoner Bard, the Enchanter, can enchant people based on what they're playing. For example, there is a summon that follows the healer and increases or doubles the heal that person is doing. Maybe an extra shield that hovers in front of the tank that negates a certain amount of damage. Or that maybe he summons like the Elementalist in Guild Wars 2 does it, summons weapons that everybody can use. I would love to see that. Honestly, like I love that whole mechanic from Guild Wars 2 that you were able to summon certain types of weapons and everybody was able to use them. That I really did enjoy. So maybe the Enchanter is something like that, but because it's the Bard, I already assume that it's gonna have a lot of AoE effect. So maybe movable AoE effect depending on whatever you summon. I think that would be a good approach.
Yeah, something I was thinking about for them was maybe you can apply different damage types to whoever you're buffing. So maybe certain raids might need fire damage, so you could give all the people who, in your range to do different fire damage on their weapons. So like, fire arrows, fire swords, etc. I also kind of think that it's going to be a very underutilized class combo, in that most people probably won't think to play it, but it's going to be so important, or I feel it's going to be so important to raids, mainly because in EverQuest 2, the Enchanter was.
I mean, depending on how they pull off the Bard and the Summoner, a lot of people might end up playing them, but I highly doubt that they will actually manage to change two classes that were never really that liked by the overall MMORPG player base, that they will change them to a degree where it's different. But I would like to see that. I would like to see people, a lot of summoners, a lot of bards.
So those are the class combos for the summoner archetype. I'm really excited to see how they take this class and how they take a lot of the the buff classes of this MMO. BCG, any last words you'd like to share?
Yes, there's one thing I would like to add, and that is do not mess up the summoner. A lot of other games tried doing summoner classes and failed horrible. The summoner doesn't fit into the Holy Trinity system. It's not a real heal, it's not a real DPS, it's not a real tank. And with the summoner and the bard, you got two classes that fit that category. Of course, you can skill and craft and wear stuff that goes into a certain category, but you will never be a real DPS. You will never be a real heal or whatever. And Steven said that the summoner and the bard, I believe, will fall into support classes. So what I would like them to do is actually make that work. Make support classes like the summoner, like the bard, actually matter a lot. Because I would honestly like to see classes that need to focus on buffing or negating damage for their group instead of just healing or taking damage. So the summoner allows a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of potential there. So I'm just curious to see how it works.
And I think that's all the time we have today. Thanks for being my guest today, BCG.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always nice to be on somebody else's content. And yeah, thanks.
And that was this week's guest on my ongoing theory crafting series. Remember to go check out his content if you haven't already. He does a lot of critical and well-researched informative videos on the latest Ashes news. And he does a community podcast where members of the community come and discuss issues and Theorycraft on certain aspects of the Ashes community. Link in the description below. Sorry there's been a larger than normal delay since my last video. This Christmas season has been very busy for me, but I'll be doing my best to continue to deliver between 1 and 2 videos a month, at least until I get big enough to do YouTube full time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit my referral, or donate to my Patreon to support my channel. This is Zeke the Phoenix, and I'll see you when you return to the nest.